Now, Turner says she is upset with the school board for making this hire when there was some cloud surrounding Horton during this process. And so we're trying to talk to the new acting superintendent, but we were told by the central office that he is not available for interviews. We've reached out to school board members, and we were told that they can't comment. Talked to the central office, and they said no, they're not being allowed to talk because this is a legal issue. Tom?
Incredible, Kevin. You know, the amount of work that goes into finding a superintendent. It's a huge job. DeKalb County school system is a massive umbrella under which he supervises, and you'd think that they would investigate anyone who they're considering hiring, doing a thorough background check, yet apparently that didn't happen with Horton.
Well, you know what? There are some questions about how thorough a search there was, or did they know and just look the other way and thought this was all specious? Because I had a chance to reach out. I tried to talk to the Evanston-Skokie School Board. That's where he used to work as a superintendent there. That's the northern suburbs of Chicago. I reached out to the board president and vice president, and instead I got a response back from the central office with a detailed statement. And in that statement, it does note that there were some issues that they were aware of soon after he came here to Atlanta. He said the feds actually approached them and said, hey, they sent them a subpoena for some records in July of 2023. And you'll remember it was April of 2023 that Horton was the last man standing in the selection process and started working here in July. So it all correlates. It lines up in that circle all within that time. And in that statement, it also made a point of saying that they did find problems with the P card, allegedly, and they passed that information on to the federal investigators. So definitely there were some rumors, and like I said, if there's, you know, could there be smoke? And if there's smoke, could there be fire?
Indeed. Kevin Stewart, these are just charges against Devon Horton for now, but we'll see how things pan out for him in Illinois. Meantime, there is a new interim DeKalb County superintendent. Of course, will continue to stay on top of the story for us. Kevin, thanks. I want to take you out live to Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport this afternoon, where things are getting really busy. Officials there tell us that this stands to be one of the busiest weekends ever at the airport, at least within 100 or 200 passengers of reaching that milestone. This in the midst of the government shutdown, where we have air traffic controllers and TSA screeners being affected. There you see Tyler Finger standing in front of TSA. Tyler, given that it's one of the busiest weekends out there and we have these extenuating circumstances, how are things going there at the airport?
Well, Tom, good afternoon to you. I can tell you the TSA says they expect to screen roughly 114,000 passengers here at Atlanta Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport today. Take a look behind me. You can see the lines have been relatively long, pretty much all afternoon long, but I will tell you things are moving at a steady clip. Still, it is a high-stakes day with TSA officers doing all of this without a paycheck. The lines come on what could be the TSA's busiest day ever at the world's busiest airport. The TSA says roughly 114,000 passengers will be screened here Friday, which could surpass the previous record set back in May. This time, though, the staff is working without pay. Sick calls do not appear to be impacting operations Friday, but back in 2019, during the last big shutdown, TSA workers called out in large numbers as the shutdown went on for weeks. Friday's travel surge comes ahead of Monday's holiday and during fall break for local school systems. Some passengers have been greeted by the lines today. Others saw none, depending when you got here. They all say they're grateful for the TSA officers who continue to work during the uncertainty about their pay.
The lines are really crazy right now, so we're hoping we'll be able to zoom by, but it doesn't look like that.
We were a little worried. We heard about the shutdown. We knew the TSA workers were being overworked and that it would probably be stressful.
Super appreciative, because without them we couldn't get through the airport and we couldn't get where we need to go, so I'm super grateful for them still showing up even though they have a reason not to.
And back out here live again, you can see the lines here at the main checkpoint. I'll tell you, I'm looking at the airport's website, atl.com. It says the main checkpoint wait time 34 minutes. If you go over to the north checkpoint, 21 minutes, and the lower north, 26 minutes. If you're lucky enough to have TSA pre-check, that wait is only 8 minutes on the south side. If you are planning to come to the airport this afternoon, I'm going to tell you, go over to the international terminal. Right now, the wait is just 4 minutes. So a lot different depending what side of the airport you go to. During an investor call Thursday, Delta CEO thanked the TSA officers and other essential workers for all they do and also called for an end to the government shutdown. And the TSA is urging people to get here early because obviously these lines are a little bit more than maybe you would see on a normal Friday. We know Fridays are busy, but we don't normally see it like this early in the afternoon. I'll tell you, normally when we're here on busy days, busy holiday weekends, we'll start seeing the lines build back up somewhere around 4:30 to 6 o'clock. But this has been this way since we went on the air at 12:15, and it's pretty much been this way ever since. Tom?
Tyler, it's pretty extraordinary when you consider that this is going to come close to breaking an all-time record for the airport. What do officials out there attribute that to, if anything? Is it just kind of a peak in last-ditch travel before the real kind of school year gets underway, or what's causing so many people to head out to Hartsfield-Jackson?
Well, so you have to keep in mind fall break is going on depending what school district you're in. Gwinnett County started yesterday. You have some of the other school districts in our area have all next week off. So it really just depends. So you have maybe people with their kids enjoying a nice little break in the middle of the fall semester. And then also you have folks who are just heading out of town for the weekend. And it just all culminating today for people. The Columbus Day holiday is on Monday, so people may have 3-day weekends depending where you work and what kind of job you have. And I will tell you, I'm just pulling up the text message that I'm getting from the folks I'm talking with at the TSA. They tell me as of noon they've had 57,000 passengers go through the checkpoints, and they are on pace to actually break the record today. So you said if this continues, and it looks like this all afternoon, there is a chance that that record is broken, and it all happens while none of these TSA workers know when they're going to get paid again.
Incredible, working under such adversity. You checked a website you mentioned earlier before you head out to the airport. Where can I go to find out what those wait times are and how far in advance I should show up for my flight?
So I'll tell you, let's see if Michael behind the camera can show you. So I'm on atl.com, and this is what that website looks like. You go to atl.com and you click wait times. You go to that link, it will pop up with something like this, and you can just see what the numbers are right now. 34 for the main checkpoint, north checkpoint 21, lower north 26, and the south with pre-check 8 minutes right now, and then main checkpoint 4. I will tell you, I think it was almost 2 years ago now, we actually put these wait times to the test. They have these sensors throughout the airport that estimates these wait times. We put it to the test in a story I did around the holidays, and those wait time estimators are pretty accurate, but I will tell you, you got to be very careful. If you're at home saying, oh, it's only 20 minutes right now, you don't know what it's going to look like in 15, 20 minutes, because we went on Fox Local at 11:35, and the line was non-existent here. When we went on TV on Fox 5 News at noon at 12:15, the wait time was about 25 minutes. So from like 5 minutes to 25 in a matter of 20 minutes.
It happens so fast, but you had a good idea. You can always go to the international side. It's not something that a lot of people think about, but you can take the plane train, right, from the international side to the domestic gates.
And a little bit of inside baseball here, and this is because I cover this a lot. If you are flying Delta, it's really easy because you can actually check your bag over on the international side. I'm sure Delta's not loving me telling this, but even if you don't have an international flight, go to the international terminal. If you have to check a bag, you can check it over there, and you can then go through the international security checkpoint over there. If you don't have a bag, you can go either way. You can go anywhere. But if you're flying another airline, think Southwest, Frontier, Spirit, I'm trying to think all the other ones, United, American, all the other ones on the north side over here, you have to come over here if you need to check a bag. But if you have your your boarding pass and you're not checking a bag, you can also go to the international international terminal and save time. Just you can check it out, and then before you order your Uber, before you drive to the airport, figure it out that way.
Yeah, well, we like to pass along inside information to our viewers. Anything that helps, especially in the midst of what stands to be one of the busiest travel weekends ever at Hartsfield-Jackson International, the world's busiest airport. Tyler Fingert, live at TSA. TSA. Tyler, thanks. Well, clouding all of this, of course, is the government shutdown. It's not helping matters at all. Those federal workers, the TSA agents, the air traffic controllers not getting paid, at least for now, although the hope is when this is all said and done, they will receive back pay. Meantime, the finger pointing on Capitol Hill continues after yet another effort to fund the government fails this morning in the United States Senate. With no end in sight to the government shutdown, some 34,000 IRS workers are now being furloughed. This comes as we just got some breaking news from the Office of Management and Budget that the massive federal layoffs have begun. Russell Vogt, who's the OMB director, called the downsizing substantial. This is in addition to possible staffing shortages impacting air travel, as we just heard from Tyler. Furloughed workers reportedly told that they're going to receive back pay once they endure the government shutdown. But the president is saying that it is not exactly guaranteed. Meantime, lawmakers aren't getting along at all from either party. No signs that an agreement to reopen the government is going to be reached anytime soon. Democrats digging in, withholding their votes, hoping to force Republicans to extend health insurance subsidies, which are set to expire at the end of the year. Well, for some gloomy news to some good news, we want to take you over to the Middle East. And this as celebration and jubilation are happening at the same time in Israel over the ceasefire. The Israeli parliament just ratified this ceasefire agreement in Gaza and the release of all the remaining hostages out there. Look at the celebrations in the streets. The U.S. is sending 200 troops to Israel to help facilitate security and the flow of humanitarian aid now into Gaza. Hamas saying that the U.S. has guaranteed the war is over for good. Some details still need to be ironed out. But the biggest question is, who will control Gaza moving forward? The president's plan calls for a temporary international stabilization force created by the U.S. and its Arab partners. He's going to travel to the Middle East this weekend and speak to the Israeli parliament about how all this went down and the way forward in the Middle East. And he will ratify that deal that has been brokered with the help of several Middle Eastern nations that is set to go into effect. We have some breaking news happening right now in Tennessee that we want to talk to you about. A huge explosion, we're told, at a military munitions plant has left several people dead and many others missing. We're told that some secondary blasts have been heard there, and rescuers are keeping their distance, at least for now. But look at these pictures that we're getting in from Tennessee. The blast, which people reported hearing from miles away, occurred, we understand, at Accurate Energetic Systems in rural Tennessee. This is west of Nashville, it looks like. The company's website says that it makes test explosives at the 8-building facility. It sprawls across a wooded area in Bucksnort, which is about 60 miles southwest of Nashville, as we mentioned, and look at what is left behind. You're looking live now at a podium that we just saw a couple of seconds ago, a news conference being staged there to fill us in on exactly what happened. But again, a huge blast leaving at least several people dead, several people missing at this hour. Reporters are assembled there to wait for word from officials in Tennessee about what happened here, what might have caused that blast, and the search and rescue operation underway right now. Again, we mentioned just a second ago that rescuers are sort of keeping their distance right now for fear of secondary blasts in the area, which reportedly have happened. But you can see the flames and the embers still burning there in southwest Tennessee. So we'll continue to watch the situation there. As soon as officials approach that podium, we will take you there live. We'll be right back as we continue here in the 3 p.m. streaming hour of Fox Local. Stay with us. Welcome back to the 3 p.m. streaming hour here on Fox Local. I'm Tom Haynes, reporting live from the Fox 5 Atlanta newsroom. We're on top of breaking news in Tennessee, where a massive explosion has occurred at a military munitions factory. Officials are giving an update as to what happened. Let's listen in.
That are handling the scene as far as the investigative part, trying to figure out and recreate or figure out what actually happened to cause this. Do I see a short-term explanation? No. Do I see us being here for many days? Yes, I do see that. We've got we've got the bomb squad from Metro Bomb Squad here. I don't really want to get in to start naming all the agencies. I'm scared I'll miss somebody. We've got TBI and Bomb and Arson here. They're all working together. It's one of the things that I'm very happy to see is all of these agencies. It's not just one, but we've come together and we're making the very best team effort that we can to move forward. Please keep in mind that these families, and I've said it up front, I said it to start with, that's where our thoughts and prayers need to go right now. And we've just got to take one day at a time or 1 hour at a time. We're processing things. We're finding out more information. We're trying to figure out, maybe the cause of this. There's not going to be a short explanation for that. I know I may have repeated myself there a little bit. Forgive me, but we're all tired and trying to put together the best effort we can and remember the families and who we're working for. I do want to touch on Accurate Energetic. They are here with us. The facility's here with us. They have discontinued operations. They're focusing on their families, their employees. They're focusing on the next things that they need to do to try to make everything best for their people. We've got critical incident folks on the scene. I'm just sitting here trying to think through the scene. We got the critical incident people here for the families as well as some of the first responders. For those of you that don't know, it was about 7:45 a.m. this morning that this explosion happened. We had a really amazing response from the first responders, fire, and here again I commend those first responders because it was multiple jurisdictions. They worked together. They got the situation under control very quickly and safely. And when you see or when you pull up to the things that they were seeing and doing, and
that's the Humphreys County Sheriff Chris Davis giving us an update on this massive explosion that happened in Southwest Tennessee at a military munitions plant that left, there are sort of conflicting reports as to how many might have been killed in this blast, but he said that they're still looking for 19 others who might be missing. You can imagine the prohibitive nature of a search like that when the fire is still burning, and indeed it is. Remarkable when you consider that that the sheriff said that this explosion happened just before 8 o'clock this morning. So well over 6 hours ago. So we're going to continue to stay on top of the situation in Southwest Tennessee, our neighbors to our north, and bring you more information as we get it. Well, staying on the subject of firefighting and rescue, there's a question among Atlanta Fire Rescue, and that is, are there enough firefighters on these fire trucks as they roll out to a scene? That's the question under consideration right now. Firefighters need reinforcements, they need backup, and so City Council is considering that. There's legislation involved here to try to bolster those numbers, and Kim Luffler is on this story for us this afternoon. Kim?
Yeah, Tom, this all concerns how many firefighters are on engines and ladder trucks here in the city. We're told that according to some national organizations, the national standard is 4, but there are some, according to the firefighters union here in the city, that only have 3. And this week, City Council member Michael Julian Bond introduced legislation to have 4 firefighters on each apparatus in the city. Now, the Atlanta Professional Firefighters Union President Nate Bailey says having more firefighters on trucks helps them be more efficient. He says it's especially important with some trucks out of service here in the city. Now, this week, Councilmember Bond, as I mentioned, introduced legislation requiring 4 firefighters on each engine and truck, which, according to the International Association of Firefighters, is the national standard. Now, take a listen to a little bit of my conversation with the union president about the importance of having this staffing on apparatus here in the city.
We want 4 firefighters on the truck, so when the truck does arrive, they can split into 2 teams. They can do a search twice as fast, or they can do totally separate tasks, which makes us more efficient. It makes us faster on the fire ground, and it protects firefighters as well, because a fire doubles in size every 30 seconds. So if you're delaying that first due truck by even 2 or 3 minutes, you're putting the citizens in more danger and the firefighters in more danger. So this legislation is very, very important, and we believe that everyone's behind it, and we want to get it put into law as quickly as possible.
Now, we did get a statement from Atlanta Fire Rescue, and they tell us while the National Fire Protection Association recommends 4 firefighters, it's not a mandate. They continue to say, quote, in Atlanta, fire-related calls make up less than 1% of total call volume due to the city's density, strategic station placement, and continuous multi-unit response coverage. No community or neighborhood is ever without protection or service from the fire department. And when I spoke with Councilmember Bond earlier today as well, he did stress that people are still safe with 3, but they want the city to be the most efficient that they can, which is why he introduced this legislation to have 4 firefighters on each apparatus. Now, the Public Safety Committee will be taking a look at this on Monday. That is the next step with this legislation. Of course, we'll keep you updated on that outcome. Tom?
Yeah, it seems, Kim, the more resources, the better, but it has to sort of comport with, budgetary restraints and the processes through which it has to go through City Council and the funding that needs to get approved, the legislation that needs to happen in order to get that funding approved. Kim Leffler, thanks. Real quick, back to Southwest Tennessee, where the battle is on to put out flames in the aftermath of what was a huge explosion at a military munitions plant in the southwest part of the state. Officials still giving a briefing on what happened there. We do understand that there are fatalities and there are people still missing. This blast happened just after 7:45 this morning, so quite some time ago, and the scene is still burning. So it was a massive multiple explosion, which could be heard, we understand, from miles away, and this is the aftermath that has been left behind. So this is a story that is developing right now. We're continuing to listen to that news conference among officials there and the search and rescue operation that is now underway. We'll bring you updates as we get them. Time now to shift gears a little bit, talk about our weather as we head into the weekend. It's a holiday weekend for some, winter break for others. We saw out at the airport just how busy it is. Jonathan, stands to be one of the busiest weekends ever, which is kind of hard to believe, at Hartsfield-Jackson International. Some great weather here this weekend, not so much as you head up the East Coast.
Well, and it's really going to be by inches and miles. The further you go to the east of Atlanta, the greater your chance is for rain. And that could be DeKalb County before the weekend is all said and done. So things have been looking really nice for our local forecast up until about 12 hours ago. And the models have been pushing in some rain as a result of a developing nor'easter. Interestingly enough, this nor'easter is developing on the western tip of Cuba there. You can see that L indicating that area of storms that is grazing South Florida as we speak. We'll continue to watch it, but folks are already on alert, literally from South Florida all the way up into New England, where there are flood alerts in effect at this hour. So today, the focus will be on the Panhandle and the peninsula of Florida. The Georgia coast can see a few showers. We've seen showers out across southern and eastern Georgia today. Tomorrow, there will be more rain rain from the Georgia Isles up to Savannah, and then there is an elevated risk for flash flooding anywhere from Charleston all the way to the Outer Banks. That is Saturday. Then overnight, the storm will graze the Chesapeake Bay, the Delmarva River Valley, going all the way up into New York and eventually New England before it wears itself out. What are we talking about in terms of ingredients with this nor'easter? Well, generally, especially along the coast of the Carolinas, you can expect wind gusts up to 45 miles an hour. Those are tropical storm force winds. 60+ mile per hour gusts as you get into the area just off coast from the Chesapeake Bay, going all the way up the Jersey Shore into Long Island, and I even think the Capes of Massachusetts are in conversation here. So that's the wind situation. We're talking about some really crazy wind that can lead to coastal erosion, beach erosion, a main concern when you have these big nor'easters come out of here. We've got an adjustment on these rainfall totals that we're expecting. This is along the coast and as far inland as the I-95 corridor. Savannah, up to an inch of rainfall, 3 inches there in Wilmington, North Carolina. Take it all the way up to Nags Head. Once again, that's the Outer Banks, nearly 3 inches there. New York City, about 2 inches. And you say, okay, that doesn't seem like a whole lot of rainfall. Keep in mind, we're going to do this in a 12 to 24 hour period. This will not be a washout weekend for every city or every spot along the East Coast. However, for the areas as the storm grazes or parallels the coast, it's going to be about a 12 to 24 hour rough period. So let's go ahead and time out the energy, because it appears now that the Atlanta metro area could be sideswiped as the storm once again moves up the I-95. This is now Sunday. You made it through Saturday problem free. Clouds thickening up, winds busy at times, but those winds are really gusting overnight going into the wee hours of Sunday morning. And look at those showers breaking across the state line of South Carolina into eastern Georgia. And look, Athens, Covington, all the way as far south as I-75, I-16, maybe even I-85 in conversation. This is midday, stepping out for brunch, getting done with church. You could likely have some passing rain, but that thing shoots up the eastern seaboard. And by the time you wake up Monday morning, I don't think there's a sign or a symptom of anything of that nature still in our neck of the woods, but still battering anyone between, I'd say at that point, central Virginia all the way up into New England.
Wow, so a huge weather maker. We thought for a second earlier in the week, before this thing was able to be better tracked, if you will, that Saturday and Sunday were just going to be two spectacular days. I guess if you're in the western part of the state, that might still be the case.
I think if
further
we could
east
draw a line from Rome down to Carrollton, all the way to LaGrange, I think you're okay. Even if you're in the western metro, we're talking about South Fulton going out to Douglasville, areas like that, I think you're okay. You may have some clouds and maybe a passing shower, but the brunt of the system in terms of how Georgia enters the chat, if you will, it will definitely be our eastern zones going out to Lake Country, I-20, I-85 to the north and to the east of the city. We're going to have to watch that area closely, because Sunday morning could be a bit interesting. Once again, we're on the drier, healthier side of the system, so it shouldn't be the worst, but nonetheless, it is a bit of a wrinkle in what is a perfect forecast. So as a result of that, I have raised the rain chances to 30% for Sunday. Once again, the focus will be set on eastern Georgia for some pretty significant winds, but also it will be that rainfall that will come in waves. It will remind you of a tropical system, but just like tropical systems, they come and they exit fairly quickly.
Well, we could use the rain. Too bad we're not getting more of it and more of the state, but we'll take it where we can get it. And it looks like the next week is going to be absolutely beautiful yet again. We're really starting to enjoy.
We're getting spoiled.
The beautiful fall weather. Jonathan,
Have a great weekend, Tom.
Thanks. You too. As we continue here, we have a lot still ahead for you, including an update on that breaking news out of Southwest Tennessee. We're also, speaking of the weekend and fun things to do, going to take you to the Atlanta History Center for a brand new exhibit. We're going to go there live as we continue here in the 3 p.m. streaming hour of Fox Local. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us here for a jam-packed 3 p.m. hour on Fox Local. You think Friday afternoons are going to be nice and quiet, but they always turn out to be busy. Today is no exception. But we're going to take a little break from the breaking news, all that's happening out there right now, and head over to the Atlanta History Center, which might be a great place to go this weekend. There is Tim Frelingios. He is the Director of Exhibitions for the Atlanta History Center. And Tim, I understand you have a great new exhibit there featuring women who worked during World War II, and it's sort of an interactive exhibit. Tell us about it and what was the inspiration behind it?
Yeah, so the exhibit's called Our War II, Women in Service. It was created by the National World War II Museum in 2023. It's been traveling the country, and we finally got our chance to feature it here at the Atlanta History Center. It'll be opening on Tuesday. It is a really beautiful exhibit that tells a fairly unknown story. Everyone kind of learned about Rosie the Riveter and the women that went into manufacturing and work during World War II. But this story is specifically about the women that actually served in the military. And just for a little comparison, in World War I, about 35,000 women served in the military, and in World War II, 350,000 women served in the military. So even though it's kind of an unknown history, if you were living at the time, you would have known a woman, whether it was your daughter or a sister or a neighbor, who was serving in some capacity in the military. And this exhibit does an excellent job telling that history and really focusing on some of the women with some of their personal artifacts and stories.
So do these women or any of them that you feature in the library, in the History Center there, do they have any connection to our area? In other words, do you feature local women who might have served during World War II?
So it's really a pretty big mix. This is a national story. So I would have to look a little deeper to find that, but I'm sure that that has happened, or that many of these women served in areas around and in the South.
Well, tell us about, because you turned your camera around, which is awesome, and we can see this amazing exhibit. We can see some uniforms there. Tell us a little bit about what we're seeing.
Well, so this is a great kind of case of the uniforms of the various parts of the military where women served. And what this really does is show you that women were in all branches of the military. So the nurse corps for both the Army and the Navy, they really predate World War II, but that was an important part. But then there was the WASP that were part of the Army Air Corps. There was the WAC with the Army, the WAVES with the Navy, and then even the Coast Guard and the United States Marines had their own form of women reserves. And it really speaks to how the mobilization for World War II needed everyone to be part of this effort. And so women were used, not in combat roles, but they were used for logistics, for training. Many women were pilots ferrying planes around. The training is really exceptional to think about. So men were being sent to the front line, sent in combat positions. But when new recruits were coming in, most of them were being trained by women. And this was not just, and this was training for everything from flying planes to shooting anti-aircraft guns. Women would be the one training many of these newly enlisted soldiers. So, they did basically everything, or at least showed people how to do everything that you were going to be doing in military service. And they came from all over the country.
Yeah, and as you say, it was an all-hands-on-deck situation during World War II.
Exactly.
Women played such a critical role in our efforts to fight. Tell us about the I Was There interactive exhibit, where this sounds really cool. Guests can actually hold conversations with 3 women who served as driver, nurse, and a baker.
Yes, let me take you around to that section. So this was interviews that were created by the National World War II Museum. And then using AI, as you come into the experience, you can actually ask a question. Now, my audio is through my AirPods, so you can actually hear it. But
yeah,
I will
we can see it, and it looks amazing.
Yeah, and I'm going to see if I can ask a question to one of our veterans. Where did you serve in the military? Well, let me see on this one. I think because of I think my earbuds are interfering, but you can see the women will then respond to the questions. And you can ask anything. And in many cases, you can ask about their service in the military, or you can ask about, some of the things in their lives. Did they have children? What did they do after the war? Things like that.
That's so cool. You're bringing, I don't know if this is AI technology or what, but you're bringing the very, very latest and greatest technology into the Atlanta History Center for this sort of conversation with people who served and had experience from back in that day.
Yes, that's correct. And we're really happy to share that with people, and I think it'll be a great way to connect with generations. That's what I'm looking forward to, really, with so many of our exhibits. One of my favorite things is, a multi-generational family coming in. Everyone so far who we previewed the exhibit with, everyone has mentioned someone in their family, someone in their neighborhood who served in World War II as part of these women auxiliary units.
Well, if you want to turn your camera back around for just a second, this is happening at the Atlanta History Center, and it's just a fantastic way to learn about women's critical role in World War II. Tim Ferlingios there at the History Center, we thank you so much for the interactive tour, for being a content creator for us, turning that camera around, showing us what you have out there, and making us so excited, giving us yet another excuse to head out to the History Center this afternoon.
Great. We'd love to see you here. Thanks a lot.
All right, Tim, thanks. As we continue here, I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about some breaking news happening again in Washington, D.C., this time on the trade front. President Trump, we understand, has tentatively canceled a meeting with President Xi Jinping after China reportedly tightened some export controls on rare earth minerals this week. Some very strange things are happening in China, the president sent out on his Truth Social page this morning. Meantime, more trade partners seem to be pivoting away from the United States in a report this morning, claiming that the tariffs have made it too expensive to do business with America. The president's been doubling down on that tariff policy in recent days, but we got some new data which shows that it's starting to disrupt global trade. American imports of containerized goods falling last month by more than 8%, including a 22% drop in goods from China. So with some exporters saying that it's just too expensive to do business with the U.S., this comes just 2 days after the president spoke about, quote, natural conflicts with our trading partners in Canada. He had the Canadian Prime Minister in the Oval Office earlier this week, speaking one-on-one about trade negotiations there. But the big news out of Washington today is that this summit meeting of sorts between President Trump and the Chinese president has been canceled. That has sent the Dow Jones Industrial Average plummeting this afternoon. It started in positive territory this morning, but now the Dow is down almost 800 points on news of the trade disruption with China and the canceling of this meeting with the Chinese president Xi Jinping. So we're watching the markets on Wall Street. There you see the Dow down 768 points on this news that happened this morning, not to mention the government shutdown clouding the economy and the prospects of a recovery as well. Big news, meantime, from the Pentagon today as the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, announces a major agreement with Qatar. You know, Qatar played a critical role in the negotiations of this peace accord between Israel and Hamas and the reopening of Gaza and getting humanitarian aid in there. Frankly, all the Middle Eastern countries participated in these negotiations. Well, the Secretary of War greeted the Defense Minister of Qatar today at the Pentagon and announced a huge joint initiative where Qatar will move some of its aircraft over to an air base in the United States and train side by side with United States Air Force pilots. This is going to be a huge move. We're going to be hosting Qatari F-15 fighter jets and pilots, enabling a joint training operation with United States forces here in our country. Might be the first time something like that has happened, but there is the greeting of the Qatari defense minister at the Pentagon with this huge announcement from our Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth. When we come back, it is Friday, and that means Friday Night Lights. Our Eli Jordan is out at a huge game that's happening tonight between two huge rivals. We'll take you there as we continue.
Correct.
All right. Welcome back to the 3 p.m. streaming hour here on Fox Local. I'm Tom Haynes, live in the Fox 5 Atlanta newsroom. We got big football games happening across the state tonight. It is Friday night after all. It's going to be a beautiful night. There's Eli Jordan out at Marist, where they're going to take on St. Pius. These are two rivals, Eli. This happens every year as we go in your face to talk about these two teams meeting once again this year in a heated rivalry. Tell us about the game tonight.
I call this the holy trinity of high school football. You got St. Pius coming to Marist, and you have High Five Sports. It's in your face. But yeah, this game goes back to 1962. Tonight is the 60th meeting between these two teams, and Marist has the number though right now. They've won 38 of those meetings, and St. Pius has won 18, and there's been 3 ties. Tonight's the 60th one, and Marist has won, let's see, 5 of the last meetings, 8 of the last 9 meetings. So, you know, Marist seems to have the upper hand here. They're number 1 in the region, and St. Pius is in the same region. They're number 2, tied with Lithonia. Marist has been pretty dominant, though. They've beaten teams like 70-0, 50-0. So they got a really good defense, but St. Pius doesn't look that bad either. They've been winning the same, you know, against the same teams, like 34-0. So I think this is going to be a really big defensive battle, but I think Marist has the offense to really fire it up, and the home field advantage going on here. But yeah, this goes back to 1962. They've been playing each other, so this is a long, old story rival, and you can imagine, you know, just all these stands are going to be packed out. And all those stands over there on the visitor side are going to be packed out. And Adam Baum and Carl Worrell will be on the call tonight for 680's Fans, Call of the Week. And that comes on tonight during High Five Sports. It's in your face. But we have a baseball game, American League Division Series between the Detroit Tigers and the Seattle Mariners. That'll go on tonight, Game 5.
Right, on
so
Fox
after that
5,
game, we're
on the broadcast channel.
Yep.
Yep.
Correct. And so that'll go on until approximately about 11:30. So High Five Sports will be starting about 30 minutes later, around approximately 11:30 tonight is when you can see all the great highlights that we bring into you after covering all these games in the region and stuff. But tonight, St. Pius comes to Marist for their 60th meeting ever on High Five Sports 680's Call of the Week. Tom?
And you're calling this the holy trinity of matchups between two
I
Catholic...
just made something up.
Yeah, I know. I like that. I thought it was pretty good. Between two Catholic high schools,
well, see,
old rivals, right?
Oh yeah, very old rivals. And over at St. Pius, though, they actually have a Jesus in the back there, and he's holding his hands up, and we call him Touchdown Jesus. And I was hoping that Marist would have a Touchdown Jesus. Because Jesus likes football, Tom. He really does, and he roots for everybody because he wants everybody to have a good time.
I was going to say, no matter who wins,
he likes
right?
touchdowns. Right, exactly. Just as long as everybody has a good time.
All right, what kind of?
They don't want to. He doesn't like lopsided games.
No,
because it's kind of boring. He likes close games. That way, both fans on both teams get the most out of it.
Everybody's a winner where Jesus is concerned. Tell us about the stadium there that you're standing in. I like your little tours of those, and you're at Marist, so give us a little tour of their stadium.
About this stadium, but this is like this is kind of like an old concrete stadium, like a lot of the ones they have over, not quite as big, but over in DeKalb County. It's an older stadium, but it has a nice newer field here, which is not too bad. And but they haven't really done what other high schools have done, completely going and upgrading their stadiums the way many have around here in the region. This isn't a $60 million stadium or anything like that, but maybe their priorities are just slightly different. Maybe they're just happy with what they have here.
Well,
but yeah, tonight
they're a great
baseball game. High Five Sports.
I got some bias.
Yeah, they're a great team, fantastic team.
I got some bias for Pius because both my kids go there, but we know what we're up against. We know what we're up against with Marist. They're a very strong team, and they definitely have the upper hand. We'll see if the Golden Lions can pull it out there tonight.
Oh yeah, hopefully it should be a close game though. Should be a
Eli,
good game.
With the call of the week, 680 The Fan, High Five Sports after the baseball game on Fox 5 tonight. Eli going in your face. Eli, thanks. Want to take you out live to Piedmont Park now. There's going to be a huge pride parade on Sunday. Thousands and thousands of people are expected out there. It's going to begin in the downtown area and continue on and wind up at Piedmont Park where the stage is set up. Our photojournalist Eric Len out there on Eric, what is a beautiful Friday afternoon and a great tee-up, if you will, for this huge pride parade.
What an incredible afternoon, Tom, here in Metro Atlanta. As an old meteorologist used to say, that we had some Honolulu blue skies today. The skies were so clear and crisp. And what a beautiful weekend to have Pride Festival. Normally, Pride Festival, when I first got to Atlanta 27 years ago, Pride Festival was more of a spring event, but it has since shifted to the fall. And this is like the perfect weekend. You could not ask for better weather to have all these thousands of visitors who come to Metro Atlanta for one of the country's largest Pride festivals.
Yeah, and I'm understanding that they're expecting over 100,000 people to flood the streets of Midtown Atlanta in what they're characterizing as the largest Pride parade. So they got the stage set up. What kind of entertainment are they expecting out there on Sunday?
I had not looked that up, and I apologize for not being thorough in my job, Tom, but I know that in the past they've had some of the most iconic music acts of all time appearing at the Pride Festival. I remember one year the great Debbie Gibson appeared on stage here at Pride. So I mean, I remember how excited everybody was about that because we're all a lot of us are children of the 80s, so that was a huge thrill. So, I would say look on their website and find out who's coming, but you'll probably be pleasantly surprised. There'll be some A-list celebrities around Pride this weekend. So I think it's going to be a really, really fun time here in Metro Atlanta.
Yeah, I understand Bob the drag queen among the higher profile celebrities set to make an appearance in the park this weekend. So what we're also expecting out there is vendors, food, live music, the performances on that stage. Here's a map. There's certainly going to be road closures there throughout the downtown, midtown area. And I understand that parade goers are being encouraged to take MARTA, get off at the Civic Center station in order to watch that parade, Eric, which culminates kind of where you are at Piedmont Park.
Yes, and ironically, this where Pride is located in Piedmont Park is obviously where the iconic Peachtree Road Race ends every 4th of July. So this part of Piedmont Park definitely knows how to handle a party. And of course, in your honor, the stage over there decided to do their audio test while we're on, so that's awesome. At least we know that's working. But also, the cool part about tomorrow, Saturday, something to think about, is there's going to be a Georgia Tech football game at 3:30 at Bobby Dodd. So you're going to have an extra 40,000 people beyond the Pride goers. So I would say parking is going to be non-existent in Midtown. So I would say take MARTA, use your favorite ride share, which is always important. But if you're going to get down here, plan accordingly.
Yeah, they're taking on Virginia Tech at Bobby Dodd, the undefeated Yellow Jackets. So that's going to be a huge game. And you're right, tens of thousands of people are going to be streaming in for that. This parade is going to begin at noon Sunday at the corner of Peachtree and Pine Street. So definitely plan accordingly. Eric Lynn, great video, great perspective from Piedmont Park, where this thing is going to wrap up. And it's going to be quite a show with over 100,000 expected this weekend. Well, that is going to do it for us on this Friday afternoon. We're so grateful you were with us for the 3 p.m. streaming hour. I'm Tom Haines, live in the Fox 5 Atlanta newsroom. The news continues at 4, right here, right now.